the exchange.
All right.
Making the exchange. As we sit here today, we realize that we have in the natural shifted from Saturday, December 10th to Sunday, December 11th. And though we recognize it's a new day, we yet look at today like yesterday. Whatever I saw then, I see now. I know that I am no longer 5, 10, 20, or 50, but I still see the exact date and time of what I encountered at that moment that has caused me to be bound even when I have been set free. I have physically shifted from day to day, but emotionally I'm still the hurting 5-year-old or the disappointed 50-year-old. We have held on to pain and nurtured it so that we have caused it to mature where we have not. The pain has manifested so that no longer is it just what I went through, but it's talking to me daily so that I will always go through it. We have caused our minds to be bound with thoughts that are not real for the sake of security. What an oxymoron. I find security in what hurts me, but not what heals me. And I find it interesting that we will hold on to pain, hurt, and suffering, but will also try to disguise it. We cannot allow others to share the experience, so we dress it up. We put on the fancy suits and the makeup and walk around all sedity like we got it all together. Even to the point that we cause others to be jealous of the facade that we are carrying. We walk around and they don't even have a clue that all the suits, the makeup, and the politically correct speech that you are harboring all kinds of pain and injustice. They don't realize that even though you're dressed up and you're made up, you're harboring hurt and insecurity. But you're holding on to it and you got it and you're just going on with it. You smile and you dress and you look nice and nobody knows that beneath the facade that you are really vulnerable, tired, hurt, and insecure, worried and oppressed, and you have to fight back the tears because nobody has a clue what you've been going through. I don't know what you've been going through this morning, but I dare you to tell your neighbor you don't know the half. We're sitting here, some of us got on makeup, some of us got on a fancy suit, some of us got it all together, so it seems, but you just don't know the half. You don't know what it took for me to even make it to the place this morning, to make it to the house of God. You don't know what I had to fight to go through. You don't know what I have to fight through on a daily basis. You just don't know the half. But God sent me here today to let you know that Jehovah Rapha, the healer, is here today on December 11th, today to heal you. Not just to sedate you, not just to cause you to forget for a moment, but to heal you completely. See, some of us will come in contact with some things that will make us feel comfortable for just a few moments, and we'll forget about the pain and we'll forget about the hurt. But then when it comes back around, we're reminded again of what made us painful and what made us hurt in the beginning, because what we did is we didn't do anything to take care of it. We just covered it up. All we did was put a band-aid on the hurt, and then when the band-aid fell off, then the hurt was apparent again. But how many of you know that sometimes you have to get to the root of the thing, and you have to go deep down, and you have to bring up the thing that's on the inside of you that causes you to have pain and causes you to have hurt, and you have to dismiss it completely.
Come on now. Oh God.
But you got to first realize that what caused you to be bound is now dead.
Come on.
See, I don't hear nobody talking to me, but I'm at my text. I said, what caused you to be bound in the first place is really now dead. The word said, and Nathan departed unto his house, and the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife bare unto David, and it was very sick. See, there was a mistake that David had made with Bathsheba. And as a result, the very child that was to come forth out of the womb of Bathsheba was about to be very sick and die. And though the child was conceived in a way that was not pleasing to God, David still wanted the child to live. So he began to try to intercede for the child. And David therefore besought God for the child and fasted and went in and lay all night upon the earth. And even when the elders arose and went to him, they tried to raise him up, but he would not, neither did he eat bread with them. And many of us can relate to David and his actions, because there is not anything we will not do for our kids. We can say, you can mess with us, but don't touch our babies. We'll go to war trying to fight for them, even when they knuckleheads, even when we know that they're not doing no good, even when we know that they done messed up, we still will birth them and try to nurture them and try to take them away from whatever pain that they find themselves in. But it came to pass on the 7th day that the child did die. And the servants of David feared to tell him that the child was dead, for they said, behold, while the child was yet alive, we spake unto him, and he would not hearken unto our voice. How will then how will he then vex himself if he will tell him that the child is dead? And when David saw his servants whispering, David perceived that the child was dead. Therefore David said unto his servants, is the child dead? And they said, he is dead. One thing I want to bring to your attention is he said, on the seventh day, the child died. The cursed thing, that which I placed myself in bondage. See, seventh literally means curse when we look through the Hebrew. And you thought it was 7 days, but it was immediately. Because the seventh day actually signified the curse. So what we think that in 7 days that the child died. But the actual thing is it was already pronounced that the child was going to be very sick and was going to die. And the very minute that God spoke the word that he was going to be sick and that he was going to die, it was already established in the spirit. Therefore, it was already completed. And so seventh doesn't actually mean something that is a period of time. Yes, it's a period of time, but it's not 7 days. It means that seventh was the actual curse. It was the actual thing that was binding you. And so when that thing has died, then that means that it died at the very moment. Nothing has the ability to grow or mature unless you give it time. Therefore, what I went through that caused me to be bound could only manifest if I hold on to it and I nurture it. It died when it happened, for even in it I hear the Lord already speaking. He said that I am the Alpha and the Omega, but all things work together for good. See, you don't understand that whatever you went through, the very moment that you went through it, it had already died. And Pastor preached a sermon. He said you got 6 seconds to agree or disagree. And so even though you went through some hurt, even though you went through some pain, you had 6 seconds to either accept it or reject it. And if you accept it, then that means that you're holding on to something that has already died, but you feel like you have to try to nurture a dead thing and carry it around with you. That is why David said in our next verse, once it was confirmed that the child was dead, he was able to jump up from his vexed state and begin to worship. Some of you have to realize that what you went through some 5, 10, 15, and 20 years ago, that thing there is dead. What we try to do is we try to pick it back up and put life into it. But God said, let the dead bury the dead. And at some point, we have to understand that whatever it was we went through, yes, some of us have been molested, some of us have been beat, some of us have been abused, some of us have been this and have been that. But the very moment that you make up in your mind that that thing is dead, then that thing is dead. We just have to understand that it is dead. And then when you get to that point, you can jump up from your vexed state and begin to worship God. That's right. Then David arose from the earth, and he washed and anointed himself and changed his apparel and came into the house of the Lord and worshipped. Then he came to his own house, and when he required, they set bread before him, and he did eat. David got up from the earth, and as I was doing the research, what I found was interesting is we look at the earth as being a place that we walk on, something that we step on. But in the Hebrew, when we go to the root of the thing, it means something that was common. David got up from that which was common. What we try to do is hold on and make friends with the common thing. But when you get up from the thing that is common, when you let go of the very thing that is common, then you'll understand that things have already been broken off of you. When he got up, he didn't just get up from the common, but he took it a step further and he began to wash himself. And when you begin to wash some things off your life, you don't just wash, but you wash it away. See, some of us have just put a little soap here and a little soap there, calling it clean. But if you go back and get it, it's still the same dirty situation that it was a long time ago. But if you put a dead thing on you, then that thing is still dirty. So what you got to do is you got to learn how to wash it off and wash it away. You don't go back and get it because it's already dead and it's already gone. And you have to understand that when you begin to wash something off and you wash it away and you get up from the common thing, there's a change that's going to come. He said he changed his apparel. He didn't just change in the natural, but he changed and he was now renewed. See, when you get ready to make some changes and you find out in your mind that the dead thing is dead, you can understand that there's some things that's going to be renewed to you. But if you keep holding on to the dead thing, you're going to keep seeing the very thing that you saw yesterday on today. That's why I said you can shift on December 10th, or when you come from December 10th to December 11th, but you're still holding on to what you saw yesterday. So really, have you shifted? Yes. All right. All right now. Come on now. He changed his garments. My God. And I find it interesting that garments, though we relate it to clothes, is also he changed his image. See, we like to hold on to what people say we used to be. We like to hold on to what we thought we were. We like to hold on to the situation and the circumstance. But David understood that because that thing is now dead, I can change my appearance. He said, I take off the gray clothes and I put on my praise garments and I begin to worship the God Most High, because I understand that whatever I was going through, that thing is dead. I'm trying to help somebody today. The thing that you thought had you bound, that thing is dead. It's time for you to take off your grave clothes, Lazarus, and it's time for you to come forth in a worship of praise. But don't just change your clothes, because let me tell you, sometimes if you change your clothes and you haven't changed your image, then you're the same thing that you was before you put on the new suit. You got to learn how to change your clothes and change your image. They go together. And so when you walk around for real and you got it all together, people will understand and they'll begin to see you walking and they'll say there's something different about her. See, I can put on a new suit, but if my image has not changed, then people will see the same me that they saw yesterday. But if I put on a new suit and I got a new image, I can walk around and people will begin to say, oh my God, it's something different about her. There's such a glow about you. You got a new attitude. And they'll recognize it, because if they see you the same as yesterday, what they're really seeing is somebody that's broke, busted, and disgusted. But I don't want them to see me dressed up and not have it all together. So he changed his image. Come on now. And when he got done changing his image and he got done washing some things away, he began to ask for something to eat. How many of you know it's important what you ask for to eat? I said it's important on what you ask for to eat. Some of us say, just give me a bologna sandwich. That's good enough for me. Just give me some of this and that's okay. But David asked for bread.
All right. Come on now. Come on. Yeah, God.
He asked for bread.
Come on.
Because what he understood was, when you begin to ask for bread, when you begin to ask for something that the Father has prepared, you're asking for provision. You know that you're getting ready to overcome and prevail, so you set it up in order to receive it. See, based on what you've already ate this morning is based on what you're going to receive. Because if you came in here already full of something, you don't have room enough to receive something else. But if you came in here waiting to be filled up, then you got plenty of room. And the Bible said, I will open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing that you don't even have room enough to receive. Some of you got to be careful what you eat in the mornings. You got to be careful what you eat in the evenings. Because if you get too full of bitter, if you get too full of frustration, if you get too full of irritation, then when God comes to feed you the bread, you won't be able to receive the provision because you're already full of something. David understood that the child was dead. Therefore, he began to prepare himself for the next journey. He first went to the Lord's house to worship. In spite of, I will yet praise thee, oh Lord. See, David had a yet praise on the inside of him because he understood that the child was already dead. He said it in the text. They said, why is it that when the child was yet alive, you fasted and you prayed and you worshiped and you wept, but now that the child is dead, why is it that you're up worshiping God? Because he understood that that thing was dead, but God yet has something else for me. See, when something dies off, God said, now I can give you something bigger and greater. But some of us focus on what we lost rather than what we focus on what we're getting ready to receive. We focus on the thing that is dead. We focus on the pain and we nurture it and we keep on trying to mature it. And God said, I want you to go ahead and let that thing die because there's something greater that I have for you. And so he began to wash his face and worship and eat. And even at this point, I believe that the theologians agree that this is the point where David said, I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. See, sometimes you have to get with some people that understand, and you have to get into 1 and 2 and touch and agree. Because when you get to a point where you begin to agree with the people that understand that your dead thing is a dead thing, that your painful thing is a dead thing, that your hurtful thing is a dead thing, that the thing that had you bound is dead. When you get into a point where you understand that, and you agree and yoke up with people that understand that, you can begin to go into the house of the Lord and worship. David was back shouting again. He was back excited. He was praising the Lord. He knew that he had messed up, but that was a dead thing. He understood that God had forgave him for his sins. He understood that God was getting ready to to do something greater. So he was shouting and he was praising God and he was worshiping. But some of us will sit there and say, woe is me. If David had got stuck in the woe state, David would still be there. But God transitioned him into worship and he began to lift up his hands and magnify God. He said, oh, let glory magnify the Lord with me. Sometimes we got to understand that we got to worship God until we make it to where he's taking us.
Amen.
So he was back and he had his shout on and he was excited and he was going forth ready for the next journey. But Bathsheba was still holding on to the pain, the grief, and the mistake. She wanted to nurture that thing because she thought that was all that God had for her. So she held on to it and she continued to hold on. And David, being a good man, began to recognize her state. And so he began to comfort his wife. And so as he began to comfort her, he began to help her to see that this thing wasn't a thing that was going to last always. What we do is sometimes when we get in a situation or a state, we get frustrated and irritated and we want somebody to help us. So we go to this person and that person and we go over here and we go over there and we don't understand that our help comes from the Lord. He said, look to the hills from which cometh my help. And so what we try to do is find that security and that comfort in somebody else, and we can't always find it there, because if somebody don't understand your situation, if they don't understand your circumstance, if they don't see the vision that God has for you, then they can't understand how to comfort you. See, they can comfort you in your pain and your mess. They can say, I've been there and I've done that, and they can go ahead and woe with you. But when they get to the point where they look beyond your situation for you and beyond your circumstance for you and beyond your pain for you, and they say, I see a vision greater than what you're suffering from. I see God wants to do something greater. They can comfort you for real.
Yes, God. All right.
He could not be of comfort to her if he himself was still holding on to the pain. So it wasn't until he got his shout back and recognized that what is dead will never return that he could then effectively comfort his wife. He wasn't just comforting her to help her forget for a moment, but he understood that what was about to come forth out of her was greater. What was being birthed on the inside of her in the form of Solomon. Therefore, it was essential that she allow the dead thing to stay dead, because new life was coming forth. And I tell you, if you begin to see something that is new, a dead carcass, then it too will eventually die. See, God has already blessed you. He has already set it up for you. He said, I pray that you have life and have it more abundantly. But what we do is we want to hold on to the dead thing, and we try to feed the dead thing. We try to feed the new thing, the new life, something that's dead. And so all the while that you're feeding the new life, the dead thing, the new life is still dying. And so you don't understand why you haven't reached your destiny yet. You don't understand. You think God has not blessed you yet. You say, God, how long do I gotta be here? God wants to know when you're gonna recognize that the thing that you were going through is dead.
All right. All right. Come on.
So you have to begin to recognize that that thing is dead, and that it's time to move on and begin to feed the new thing a new life. You can't put old wine in new wineskin or new wine in old wineskin, because it will begin to burst. And that's the same thing that happens when you begin to feed the live thing something that is dead. And the Holy Ghost is saying there's about to be a surgery in the spirit. He's about to cut that thing off of you. Whatever it was that you're going through, God said, if I can just get you to stop grieving over your past, I'm going to show you how I can use your past to determine your future. Many of you are pregnant right now with a king, yet you are still trying to hold on to your past. Do you have any idea what you're carrying this morning? The next king of Israel is in your belly. But until you realize that what you have on the inside of you is greater than the thing that you lost or the thing that mistreated you, you will never focus on the king that's on the inside. He said, greater is he that's on the inside than he that's in the world. If I can just get you to release the pain. I said, if I can just get you to release the pain. Some of y'all holding on to hurt because of mama and them. Some of y'all holding on to frustration because of uncle and them, because of what somebody did to you. And I'm not saying that it was easy and that it wasn't a hurtful thing, but it died on the seventh day. It died the moment that it was conceived. It died the moment that it tried to operate in your life. He said, no weapon formed against you shall be able to prosper. And so if no weapon formed against me shall prosper, it must mean that it was really dead. If you can release the pain, if you can release the pain out of this womb, you will birth the next king of Israel. You'll release the prophecy that you received. You'll birth forth the I am of God. See, some of you have had a bad season.